Jake Morrison stared at the blue light that floated in front of him. The alien message hung in the air like a ghost made of electricity. His hands shook as he read the words that changed everything for the human race. The message was cold and final. It said that humans were not welcome in the galaxy. The aliens called Earth a death world. They said humans were too dangerous to be part of their peaceful society. After 3 long years of trying to make friends with these star people, the answer was no. Jake was the commander of the ship called Horizon. His team had traveled farther from Earth than any human before them. They had learned alien languages, had studied alien customs. They had sent peaceful messages across the void of space. All of this work led to one simple response from the Galactic Federation. Go away. Lisa Kane stood next to Jake in the communication room. She was the team's expert on alien life. Her job was to understand how other beings lived and thought. Right now, she could not understand how anyone could be so cruel. They think we are monsters, Lisa said. Her voice was quiet and sad. They look at our world and see only danger. They see our storms and earthquakes. They see our wild animals and high gravity. They think these things make us bad. Alex Rodriguez was hunched over his computer screen. He was the ship's engineer, the man who kept everything running. His fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as he pulled up information about the Federation. Look at this, Alex said. They have a scale for rating planets. Earth gets a 12 out of 10. That means our world is more dangerous than their scale can even measure. They list our gravity as deadly. Our weather is extreme. Our animals as savage. The 3 humans stood in silence for a moment. Outside the ship's windows, stars twinkled in the endless darkness. Somewhere among those stars were hundreds of worlds filled with life. Beings who had built great cities among the stars. Creatures who had learned to travel between worlds as easily as humans drove cars between cities, and none of them wanted anything to do with Earth. Ben Carter walked into the room. He was Jake's second in command, a man who never gave up on anything. His face was hard as stone as he read the alien message. So that's it? Ben asked. We pack up and go home? We tell everyone on Earth that we found the galactic community, but they don't want us. Jake looked at his friend. Ben had been with him since the beginning of this mission. They had trained together, planned together, dreamed together about this moment. Neither of them had imagined it would end like this. What choice do we have? Jake asked. They've made their position clear. We're outcasts before we even had a chance to prove ourselves. Sam Hughes sat at the communication station. He was young, barely 25, but he was the best at talking to aliens the human race had ever produced. He had learned 6 different alien languages in the past 3 years. His job was to help humans and aliens understand each other. Commander Sam said, there's something else in their databases. Information about other species they've rejected. Team gathered around Sam's station. On his screen were files about dozens of different alien races. Most of them had been welcomed into the Federation with open arms. But a few had been turned away, so the Kree were rejected because they were too warlike, Sam explained. The Vorthon were turned away because they were too aggressive. The Zephyrians were denied because they came from a world with dangerous storms. Lisa studied the files. What happened to them? The Kree disappeared into deep space. No one has heard from them in 50 years. The Vorthon became pirates and raiders. They attack Federation ships and steal their cargo. The Zephyrians gave up trying to contact anyone and went back to their home world. Jake felt anger building inside him. The Federation had a history of pushing away anyone who was different, anyone who didn't fit their idea of peaceful and safe. They had turned entire species into outcasts and enemies, Commander Ben said. We have a choice to make. We can go home and tell Earth that we failed, or we can stay out here and make our own path. Alex looked up from his computer. The Federation databases are still open to us. You can see their star maps, their trade, routes, their technology. They told us to go away, but they didn't block our access to information. Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Earth was 47 light-years behind them. It would take months to get home, even with their fastest engines. But it would only take days to reach the nearest Federation outpost. What are you thinking, Jake? Lisa asked. Jake turned to face his team. These were the best people Earth had to offer. They were scientists, engineers, explorers, and dreamers. They had risked everything to make contact with alien life. Nate had succeeded in that goal, even if the aliens didn't want them. "I'm thinking that maybe the Federation is wrong about us," Jake said. "Maybe being from a death world doesn't make us monsters. Maybe it makes us something they've never seen before." Ben smiled for the first time since the message arrived. "You want to show them what humans can do? Want to show them that rejecting us was a mistake?" Jake replied. "We came out here to join galactic civilization. It's just because they don't. Want to invite us doesn't mean we can't crash the party." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we go to one of their trade stations. We dock our ship. We walk among them. We show them that humans aren't the savage beasts they think we are." Alex grinned. "And if they try to stop us?" Jake's expression grew serious. "Then we show them why you don't want to fight someone from a death world." Sam turned in his chair. "Commander, that could be seen as an act of aggression. It might confirm everything they believe about us. Or it might force them to see us as we really are," Jake countered. "Not as monsters or savages, but as people who refuse to be dismissed without a fair chance." The team looked at each other. They had come so far and sacrificed so much to reach this moment. Going home empty-handed felt like giving up on humanity's future among the stars. Ben stepped forward. "I'm with the commander. We didn't come this far to turn around at the first sign of prejudice." Lisa nodded slowly. "If we're going to do this, we need to be smart about it. We can't just burst into their space like conquerors. We need to show them our value." Alex was already pulling up star charts. "There's a major trade hub called Nexus Prime about 3 days from here. It's one of their biggest commercial centers. If we're going to make an impression, that's the place to do it." Jake looked at each member of his team. These people had followed him across the galaxy on the promise of making history. Now he was asking them to risk everything on a plan that could end in disaster. "This isn't an order," Jake said. "This is a choice. Anyone who wants to head home to Earth can say so right now. No judgment, no shame. But if we stay, we're committed to seeing this through." The room was quiet for a long moment, and Sam spoke up. "Earth sent us out here to make contact with alien life. Mission accomplished. Now they're asking us to represent humanity to the galaxy. I say we do that job properly." One by one, the rest of the team nodded in agreement. They would not be turning around, would not be going home defeated. They were going to show the galaxy what humans were made of. Jake smiled and walked back to the captain's chair. "Sam, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're proceeding with Protocol 7. Sam's fingers danced across his console. Protocol 7 was the backup plan they had hoped never to use. It was the plan for what to do if first contact went badly. Message sent, Commander. Sam reported. Jake settled into his chair and looked out at the stars ahead of them. Somewhere in that darkness was Nexus Prime, filled with aliens who thought humans were too dangerous for civilized society. They were about to learn that being dangerous and being evil were two very different things. And sometimes the galaxy needed a little danger to keep it safe. 3 months had passed since the humans received their rejection from the Galactic Federation. The ship Horizon had been busy during those months. Jake Morrison and his crew had not been sitting around feeling sorry for themselves. They had been preparing for something that had never been tried before. The human ship now approached Nexus Prime. It's the biggest trading station in this part of the galaxy. It was a massive structure that looked like a metal flower blooming in the darkness of space. Thousands of ships came and went from its docking bays every day. Beings from dozens of different worlds bought and sold goods there, but no human had ever set foot on. Nexus Prime, the Federation monitoring station, detected the human ship long before it reached the trade hub. Zekmor was the station commander, a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms. His species came from a world where the biggest danger was a creature about the size of a house cat. He had never seen anything like the approaching human vessel. Unknown. Ship, this is Federation Control, Zekmor spoke into his communication device. You are entering restricted space. State your purpose immediately. The response came back in perfect galactic standard, the common language used for trade and diplomacy. This is Captain Ben Carter of the human ship Defiance. We are peaceful. Traders seeking to conduct business at Nexus Prime? Zekmor felt his heart skip a beat. Humans. The Deathworld species that had been rejected by the Federation Council. What were they doing here? Human vessel. Your species does not have authorization to enter Federation space. You must leave immediately, or we will be forced to take action. On the bridge of the Defiance, Ben Carter looked at Jake Morrison. They had expected this response. Jake nodded, giving Ben permission to continue with their plan. Federation Control. We understand your concerns. We are not here to cause trouble. We carry goods that are not available anywhere else in the galaxy. We request standard merchant protocol. Zekmor's blue skin turned a darker shade as stress hormones flooded his system. He had 12 patrol ships under his command, but he had never actually had to use them in real combat. The Federation was a peaceful organization. Violence was rare. Human ship. You will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. You'll be escorted back to the edge of Federation space. The human. The response was immediate and terrifying. The Defiance suddenly accelerated at a speed that should have been impossible. Federation ships were built for comfort and efficiency. They moved smoothly through space like gentle giants. The human ship moved like a bullet fired from a gun. Captain Thixes commanded the lead patrol ship. The species looked like giant insects. With intelligence, they had evolved on a world of soft breezes and gentle rains. The G-forces that the human ship was pulling would have turned his crew into paste. How are they still alive? Thixes clicked to his crew in their native language. Those acceleration rates should have killed every living thing on that ship. The human vessel didn't just outrun the Federation patrol ships. It outmaneuvered them with a grace that seemed impossible. The ship twisted through space like a dancer, performing moves that would have torn apart any Federation vessel. On the Defiance, Jake Morrison sat calmly in his command chair. The forces pressing against his body were uncomfortable but manageable. Every human on the ship was dealing with the same pressure. It was nothing compared to what they experienced during training on Earth. Alex, what's our status? Jake asked his engineer. Alex Rodriguez checked his instruments while being pressed back into his seat by the acceleration. All systems green, Commander. Artificial gravity is holding steady. We're pulling about 8 Gs right now. Lisa Kane monitored the Federation communications from her station. They're panicking, Jake. Their sensors show that we should all be dead from the G-forces? Jake smiled grimly. This was exactly what they had hoped would happen. Federation species had evolved on gentle worlds. Their idea of extreme acceleration was what humans would consider a mild roller coaster ride. The Defiance completed a perfect combat role and came to rest. Just outside the Federation patrol formation, the move was calculated to show off human piloting skills without appearing aggressive. They were demonstrating capability, not hostility. Then Jake gave the order that changed everything. Sam, power up the weapon systems. The Federation sensors immediately detected the weapon signatures from the human ship. But what they found made no sense. The humans weren't using energy weapons like lasers or plasma cannons. They weren't carrying antimatter warheads or fusion bombs. Instead, their weapons appeared to be simple metal projectiles. Thixes stared at his readings in confusion. What kind of primitive weapons are those? His weapons officer, a young Kithra named Victon, ran the calculations twice before he believed them. Captain, those projectiles are designed to be fired at extremely high velocities. The kinetic energy alone would be devastating. How devastating? Sir, one of those metal rods moving at the speed their systems indicate would punch through our shields and hull like they weren't even there. Thixes felt his legs go weak. The humans had weapons that his people's technology couldn't stop, and they had demonstrated flight capabilities that exceeded anything in Federation records. Ben Carter's voice came over the communication channel again. It was calm and reasonable, but there was an edge to it that made every alien listener pay. Attention. Federation vessels. We don't want to fight. We're peaceful traders who simply want to conduct business. But we're not leaving until we've completed our mission. The choice of how this proceeds is yours. Zekmor stared at his tactical display from the monitoring station. The humans had just demonstrated that they could outfly, outmaneuver, and outgun his entire patrol fleet. They had done it without firing a shot or making a single threatening move. It was the most polite display of overwhelming force he had ever witnessed. More importantly, they had shown that being from a death world didn't make them weak or primitive. It made them incredibly dangerous. All patrol ships stand down, Zekmor ordered. Allow the human vessel to proceed to Docking Bay 7. The Federation ships moved aside like they were making way for royalty. The human ship glided smoothly toward Nexus Prime's docking facilities. Its movements now gentle and precise. In the station's control center, Administrator Velnoth watched the proceedings with growing amazement. Her species, the Serenians, were tall and graceful beings who came from a world of floating cities and eternal twilight. Violence was completely foreign to their nature. Should we alert the Federation Council? Her assistant asked. Velnoth studied the human ship as it approached. The docking bay. Not yet. Let's see what these Deathworlders actually want. We've gone to great effort to get our attention. The least we can do is listen. On the Defiance, Jake Morrison stood up from his command chair. The demonstration was over. The hard part. They had to prove that humans could be trusted partners, not just feared enemies. Lisa, Alex, Ben, you're with me. Sam, maintain communication with the station and monitor Federation channels. If this goes badly, we need to know immediately. Lisa Kane gathered her diplomatic materials while Alex Rodriguez checked his sample cases. Ben Carter made sure his sidearm was properly concealed, but easily accessible. They were about to become the first humans to set foot on a Federation space station. Are you sure about this, Jake? Lisa asked. Once we step off this ship, there's no going back. Every alien on that station is going to be watching our every move. Jake looked out the viewport at the massive space station. Thousands of beings from dozens of worlds lived and worked there. None of them had ever seen a human before. Most of them probably believed the propaganda about Deathworlders being savage and dangerous. That's exactly why we have to do this, Jake replied. They need to see that we're not monsters. We're people. Different people, maybe, but still people with the same hopes and dreams as everyone else. The docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. Beyond them lay the interior of Nexus Prime, filled with sights and sounds that no human had ever experienced. The air smelled of exotic spices and strange chemicals. Alien voices spoke in languages that human ears had never heard. Jake Morrison took a deep breath and stepped forward into the unknown. Behind him, his crew followed. They were no longer just explorers or diplomats. They were representatives of the entire human race, carrying the hopes and dreams of Earth on their shoulders. The Federation hadn't wanted them to come, but they were here anyway. And they were going to prove that sometimes the species you don't want is exactly the species you need. The doors of the human ship opened with a soft sound. Jake Morrison stepped onto the metal floor of Nexus Prime Docking Bay 7. The air felt different here. It was thinner than Earth air and smelled of strange chemicals and alien plants. Him, Lisa Kane, Alex Rodriguez, and Ben Carter followed closely. The docking bay was huge. Ships of all shapes and sizes filled the space. Some looked like metal birds with curved wings. Others were shaped like giant crystals or flowing water. None of them looked anything like human ships, which were built for strength and speed rather than beauty. A tall, thin alien approached them. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow softly in the station's light. She moved like she was floating, rather than walking. This was Administrator Velnoth, the being in charge of Nexus Prime. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," she said, through a small device that changed her words into human language. "I am Administrator Velnoth. Your arrival has been most unusual." Jake stepped forward and offered his hand in the human custom of greeting. Several nearby aliens moved backward when they saw this gesture, and to them it looked like the human was reaching out to grab something. "Thank you, Administrator," Jake said. "I am Commander Jake Morrison. We are here to establish peaceful trade relationships and show that humans can be valuable partners." Velnoth looked at the offered hand with curiosity and fear. She had read about human customs in the Federation databases. This gesture was supposed to be friendly, but it still looked threatening to her eyes. Carefully, she reached out and touched Jake's hand with her own. Jake gently shook it up and down, showing her the human way of greeting. Several other aliens watched this strange ritual with amazement. "Follow me," Velnoth said. "We'll take you to the main trading area. But I must warn you, many beings here have never seen humans before. They may react with fear." The group walked through corridors filled with aliens of every shape and size imaginable. There were beings that looked like walking trees, others that seemed to be made of living metal, and some that floated in bubbles of colored gas. All of them stopped what they were doing to stare at the humans. Lisa Kane noticed how the aliens looked at them. "They're afraid," she whispered to Jake. "Their body language shows fear and curiosity in equal measure. Can you blame them?" Alex replied quietly. "We're the first Deathworlders most of them have ever seen. They probably expect us to start eating them." The main trading floor was a vast space that rose up several levels. Hundreds of different species moved through the area, buying and selling goods from across the galaxy. The moment the humans entered, conversations stopped. A wave of silence followed them as they walked. Jake approached a merchant who looked like he was made of living crystal. The being's body sparkled with different colors as light passed through him. This was a Voltan, a species that came from a world of eternal sunshine and gentle breezes. "Good day," Jake said politely. "We are traders from Earth. We would like to discuss business opportunities with you." The Voltan's colors shifted to deep red, which Jake's cultural database told him meant extreme nervousness. What do you wish to trade?" Ben Carter stepped forward with a small metal case. "We have several products from our home world that might interest the galactic market." He opened the case and pulled out a sealed container about the size of a human fist. When he opened it, a rich, complex smell filled the air around them. Every alien within 50 feet stopped what they were doing and turned toward the humans. "This is coffee," Ben explained to the growing crowd. "It's a beverage made from the seeds of a plant that grows on our world. It provides energy and has a pleasant taste." A brave merchant from the insect-like Cathora species clicked forward on 6 legs. "What does it do to the body?" Lisa Kane smiled and spoke in a calm, friendly voice. "It increases alertness and helps with mental focus. It's completely safe for most known life forms. Humans have been drinking it for thousands of years." "How is it prepared?" asked another alien. "We roast the seeds at very high temperatures," Alex explained. "About 400 degrees on the standard scale." The crowd of aliens stepped backward in shock. 400 degrees was hot enough to kill most species instantly. The idea that these Deathworlders willingly exposed their food to such extreme heat was terrifying and fascinating at the same time, but curiosity won over fear. The Voltan merchant was the first to ask for a sample. Lisa carefully prepared a weak mixture of coffee with water, making sure it was cool enough to be safe for alien biology. The Voltan sipped the dark liquid carefully. His crystal body immediately began to glow brighter. Colors flowed through him. Like water, patterns that the humans had never seen before. After a few moments, he looked up at them with what could only be described as wonder. "This is remarkable," the Voltan said. "I feel more awake than I have ever been. My thoughts are clearer. The sensation is most pleasant." Word spread quickly. Through the trading floor, within minutes, dozens of aliens were asking to try the human beverage. Each species reacted differently, but all of them found the experience positive and exciting. Jake pulled out another sample from their collection. "We also have spices from our world. This one is called pepper. It adds flavor to food," he showed them small black spheres that looked completely harmless. But when a curious Aquarian merchant touched one to his tongue, his reaction was immediate and dramatic. The Aquarian's skin turned bright orange, and he began to make rapid breathing sounds. The other aliens thought he was dying and started to panic. But after a few seconds, the Aquarian's colors returned to normal, and he looked at the humans with amazement. "That was incredible," the Aquarian said. "It caused a burning sensation, but it was pleasant rather than painful." "How do you tolerate such extreme flavors?" Lisa explained patiently. "Humans have eaten spicy foods for thousands of years. Our taste buds are adapted to enjoy these sensations. We find them pleasant and exciting." The aliens looked at each other. In wonder, these Deathworlders didn't just survive extreme conditions, they actively sought them out for pleasure. They consumed substances that would be considered torture by most species. They enjoyed it. But again, curiosity overcame fear. More and more aliens wanted to try the human foods and drinks. They started with very small amounts, but their reactions were universally positive. The coffee made them feel energetic and alert. Spices added new dimensions to their food that they had never experienced. Alex opened another case filled with different items from Earth. We also have chocolate, tea, vanilla, cinnamon, and many other products. Each one offers unique experiences. By the end of the first hour, there was a crowd of over 200 aliens gathered around the human trading post. Beings who had never spoken to each other were sharing experiences and comparing reactions to the human products. Administrator Velnath watched from her office above the trading floor. Her assistant, a nervous creature that looked like a walking flower, stood beside her. "Should we stop this?" the assistant asked. "The crowd is getting very large. This could disrupt normal trading operations." Velnath shook her head slowly. "Look at them," she said. "I've never seen so many different species working together and sharing experiences. The humans aren't causing trouble. They're creating community."
Down.
On the trading floor, Jake Morrison found himself surrounded by alien merchants, making offers for human products. The Voltan wanted exclusive rights to coffee distribution in his sector. The Kithra were offering rare metals in exchange for spice samples. The Aquarians wanted to set up a permanent trading agreement. Commander Lisa whispered to Jake, "We've received more trade requests in one day than some merchants see in a year. The value of these offers is incredible." Ben Carter was busy taking notes on all the different requests. "Jake, if we accept even half of these deals, we could fund a dozen more ships like the Defiance." But Jake was thinking about more than profit. He watched as aliens from different worlds shared cups of coffee and discussed the flavors of Earth's spices. These beings came from species that barely spoke to each other under normal circumstances. The human products were breaking down barriers and creating connections. "We're not just trading goods," Jake realized. "We're trading experiences, showing them that different doesn't have to mean dangerous." As the day continued, news of the human traders spread throughout Nexus Prime. Beings from all levels of the station came down to see these Deathworlders who brought such amazing things. The humans were polite, friendly, and genuinely interested in learning about other cultures. By evening, Administrator Velnath had to expand the trading area to accommodate all the visitors. The human presence had transformed the normally quiet trading floor into a festival of cultural exchange. "Send a message to the Federation Council," Velnath told her assistant. "Tell them the humans are not what we expected. They're not conquerors or savages. They're traders and diplomats. And they're very, very good at both." The assistant hurried away to send the message. Ash. On the trading floor below, Jake Morrison shook hands with another alien merchant, sealing another deal that would benefit both species. Well, the humans hadn't been wanted, but they had come anyway. And they were proving that sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places. The emergency message reached every Federation world at the same time. Red lights flashed in government buildings across the galaxy. Emergency meetings were called on dozens of planets. The crisis was unlike anything the Federation had faced in 300 years. A massive asteroid was heading straight for Sanctuary, the refugee moon where 12 million beings lived in peace. These were people who had lost their homes to wars, natural disasters, and other tragedies. The Federation had built Sanctuary as a safe place where anyone could start a new life. Now that safety was about to be destroyed, Supreme Counselor Wexstar stood in the Great Council Chamber on the capital world of Harmony. His long tentacles moved nervously as he studied the holographic display showing the asteroid's path. Rocky mass was nearly 2 miles wide and moving at incredible speed. "How long do we have?" he asked the chief scientist. 47 days until impact," came the grim reply. "The asteroid will hit Sanctuary directly. The explosion will destroy the entire moon." Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of species discussed options in their native languages. The noise was overwhelming, but underneath it all was the same message. There was nothing they could do. Counselor Theron, whose purple skin showed his deep worry, spoke up. "What about our deflection technology? Can we change the asteroid's path? The chief scientist shook his head sadly. Our deflection systems are designed for small objects. This asteroid is too big and moving too fast. We would need months to slowly change its direction. We only have weeks. Evacuation? Suggested another counselor. It's possible, replied the transportation minister. Our largest ships can carry 15,000 people at once. We would need to make dozens of trips to save everyone. There isn't enough time. The council chamber fell silent. 12 million innocent beings were going to die, and the greatest minds in the Federation could not find a solution. That was when the communication request arrived. The message came from Nexus Prime, where the human traitors had been causing such a stir. Supreme Counselor, said the voice of Jake Morrison, we have been monitoring your emergency broadcasts. We believe we can help with your asteroid problem. Star's tentacles twisted in what humans would recognize as bitter laughter. Commander Morrison, this asteroid weighs over 2 billion tons. Our most advanced technology cannot move it. What could your people possibly do? Gagaza's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the council could see the bridge of his ship, where other humans worked at strange-looking controls. You're thinking about moving the asteroid, Jake said calmly. We're thinking about destroying it. The word destroying hit the council chamber like a physical blow. Beings gasped, clicked, buzzed, and made other sounds of shock and horror. The idea of deliberately destroying something that large was almost unthinkable to Federation minds. Destruction? Wexstar repeated. The energy needed would be enormous. The debris would still be dangerous. Not if you break it up properly, said Ben Carter, appearing next to Jake on the screen. We've studied your asteroid's composition. Most of it is iron and rock with some ice. If we hit it at the right spots with enough force, we can shatter it into pieces small enough to burn up harmlessly in Sanctuary's atmosphere. Counselor Thyron leaned forward. Ow. You have weapons powerful enough to destroy a 2-mile asteroid? Jake smiled, but there was no humor in it. We have something better than weapons, Counselor. We have human engineering. 20 hours later, the human ship Defiance was racing through space toward the approaching asteroid. Federation observers watched from safe distances, their instruments recording everything. What they saw challenged everything they thought they knew about technology and physics. The human ship was moving at speeds that should have torn it apart. Acceleration forces should have killed everyone aboard. But somehow, the Deathworlders not only survived, but seemed comfortable with the extreme conditions. How are they still alive? Asked Dr. Sinkhole, the Federation's top physicist. Those G-forces would liquefy any known life form. Lisa Kane's voice came over the communication channel from the human ship. Dr. Humans evolved on a high-gravity world with dangerous conditions. Our bodies are built to handle forces that would kill most species. This acceleration is uncomfortable for us, but not deadly. Alex Rodriguez added his own explanation. Our ship is also built differently than Federation vessels. We're designed for strength and durability rather than comfort and elegance. Everything aboard this ship can handle extreme conditions. The Defiance reached the asteroid and began to circle around it. The humans used their sensors to map every detail of the massive rock. They found weak points, stress fractures, and areas where the different materials met. There, said Jake, pointing to a spot on the asteroid's surface. If we hit that junction point with enough kinetic energy, the shockwave will travel through the entire structure. The asteroid will break apart along its natural fault lines. The Federation observers watched in amazement as the human ship moved away from the asteroid. Instead of energy weapons or explosive missiles, the Defiance opened its cargo bay and released 12 metal rods. Each rod was about 6 feet long and made of dense tungsten metal. Kinetic bombardment, explained Ben Carter to the watching aliens. We accelerate these projectiles to extremely high speeds, using our ship's engines. When they hit the target, the kinetic energy alone is enough to cause massive damage. Doctor? Sinkhole ran calculations on his computer. The velocities they're achieving are impossible. Those metal rods are moving at nearly 10% of light speed. It's impossible for Federation technology, corrected Alex Rodriguez. Focuses on solving problems rather than following rules about what should or shouldn't be possible. The tungsten rods struck the asteroid at precisely calculated points. The impact was spectacular. Bright flashes of light erupted where each rod hit, and shock waves rippled across the asteroid's surface like waves on water. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The asteroid continued on its path toward Sanctuary, apparently unchanged. Then it began to crack. Starting from the impact points, lines of fracture spread across the asteroid's surface. The cracks grew deeper and wider, following the weak points that the humans had identified. Within minutes, the massive rock was breaking apart into thousands of smaller pieces. "Incredible," whispered Wexstar as he watched the destruction. "They did it. They actually did it." The asteroid that had threatened to destroy Sanctuary was now a cloud of debris. The largest pieces were no bigger than houses, and most were much smaller. When they entered Sanctuary's atmosphere, they would burn up harmlessly like shooting stars. 12 million lives had been saved by 4 humans and their impossible ship. Communications poured in from across the Federation. Scientists wanted to understand how the humans had achieved such precise destruction. Military leaders wanted to know more about kinetic weapons. Politicians wanted to discuss the implications of having such powerful allies. But it was Supreme Counselor Wexstar who sent the most important message. It went directly to Jake Morrison aboard the Defiance. "Commander Morrison, the Federation Council owes you and your people a debt that can never be repaid. You have saved millions of lives today." Jake's response was simple and direct. "We didn't do this for payment or recognition, Counselor. We did it because it was the right thing to do. That's what civilized beings do for each other." Wexstar felt something change inside him as he heard those words. These Deathworlders, these beings his people had rejected as too dangerous for civilized society, had just demonstrated the highest ideals of civilization itself. "Commander, I believe it's time for the Federation to reconsider our position regarding humanity. Would you be willing to come to Harmony for formal discussions?" Jake looked around at his crew. Lisa Kane nodded encouragingly. Ben Carter gave him a thumbs up. Alex Rodriguez grinned and said, "About time they came to their senses. We would be honored to visit Harmony, Supreme Counselor, but understand that we're not asking for charity or pity. We're asking for the chance to prove that diversity makes civilization stronger, not weaker." "I think you've already proven that, Commander. I think you've proven it beyond any doubt." As the Defiance turned toward the Federation capital world, Jake Morrison allowed himself a small smile. The asteroid crisis had given humanity something that years of diplomacy could not. It had given them the chance to show what they were really made of. They hadn't been wanted, but they had come anyway. And in the moment when it mattered most, they had proven that being different was exactly what the galaxy needed. 8 months had passed since the humans saved Sanctuary Moon from destruction. Jake Morrison now stood in the Great Council Chamber on Harmony, the Federation capital world. The same beings who had once rejected humanity now listened to his every word with deep respect and growing fear. "The Void Hunters have broken through our outer defenses," Supreme Counselor Wexstar announced to the assembled representatives. "They have destroyed 3 colony worlds and are moving toward the core systems. Our long-range sensors show over 200 enemy ships." The council chamber filled with the sounds of worry and fear. Different species made different noises when they were scared, but the meaning was the same across the galaxy. The Federation's worst nightmare had come true. The Void Hunters were everything the Federation was not. Where the Federation built and created, the Void Hunters consumed and destroyed. They traveled from system to system, taking everything useful and leaving dead worlds behind them. For 200 years, the Federation had avoided them by staying out of their path. Now the Void Hunters were coming directly for the heart of Federation space. Counselor Theron's purple skin had turned almost black with stress. "Our defense. Fleets are not designed for this kind of warfare. We've always focused on keeping peace, not fighting wars." Jake studied the tactical displays that showed the enemy's advance. The Void Hunter ships were dark and angular, built for one purpose. Only, they were weapons designed to kill and destroy everything in their path. "What do you need from us?" Jake asked. Wexstar's tentacles drooped with exhaustion and worry. "Everything, Commander. Your weapons technology, your tactical knowledge, your ability to think like warriors instead of peacekeepers." The word warriors hung in the air like smoke from a fire. The Federation species had worked for centuries to move beyond violence and aggression. They had built a civilization based on cooperation and mutual support. But now they needed the one thing they had tried to leave behind. They needed fighters. Jake looked around the council chamber at the representatives from dozens of peaceful worlds. These beings had created art, music, literature, and scientific discoveries that amazed the human crew. But they had no idea how to fight a war against an enemy that wanted to destroy everything they had built. "Will help," Jake said simply. "But this changes the relationship between humanity and the Federation." "How so?" asked Wexter.
No.
"You can't reject us as too dangerous for your civilization, and then ask us to protect that civilization from danger. If we're going to fight for the Federation, humanity needs to be part of the Federation." The council chamber became very quiet. Representatives looked at each other with uncertainty and fear. They were being asked to make a choice between their principles and their survival. Counselor Zixel of the Aquarian Collective was the first to speak. "The humans saved Sanctuary Moon when we could not. Their trading has brought new experiences and prosperity to dozens of worlds. Perhaps it is time to admit that our classification system was wrong." "They still come from a death world," protested Counselor Marden. "They still consume substances that cause pain for pleasure. They still use violence as a solution to problems. And they use that strength to protect those who cannot protect themselves," replied Thyron. "When the asteroid threatened Sanctuary, they did not hesitate to help. When we needed impossible solutions, they provided them." Jake stepped forward. "Counselor Marden, you're right about us. We do come from a dangerous world. We have adapted to violence and hardship in ways that peaceful species cannot understand. But that doesn't make us evil. It makes us survivors." He paused and looked directly at each council member. "Sometimes survival is exactly what civilization needs." The vote was closer than Jake had hoped, but wider than he had feared. Humanity was granted temporary membership in the Galactic Federation, with full membership to be decided after the current crisis was resolved. 3 weeks later, the first human fleet arrived in Federation space. Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity. Around him, ships from dozens of species flew in formation, their crews learning human fighting techniques and sharing their own advanced technologies. The enemy fleet was massive. 200 Void Hunter ships moved through space like a disease, consuming everything in their path. Their vessels were twice the size of Federation ships and armed with weapons designed to break apart entire planets.
Ow.
"How do we fight something like that?" asked Captain Veltor, a Serenian officer who had volunteered to serve under human command. Ben Carter, now Jake's second in command, studied the enemy formations. "We don't fight them the way they expect. Federation tactics are defensive. Void Hunter tactics are overwhelming force. We need to be something they've never seen before." "Which is what?" asked Dr. Zinkel, the fleet science officer. "Unpredictable." Jake replied, "Deathworlders don't fight fair. We fight to win." The battle began at the edge of the Kepler system. The Void Hunters expected the Federation fleet to form defensive lines and try to hold territory. Instead, the human-led ships scattered like leaves in a storm, attacking from dozens of different directions at once. Void Hunter Captain Grockmore had fought hundreds of battles against dozens of different species. He had never seen tactics like this. The enemy ships moved in patterns that made no sense, striking at weak points he didn't even know existed. "They're using kinetic weapons," his weapons officer reported. Simple metal projectiles moving at impossible speeds." "Impossible? How?" "Sir, those projectiles are moving fast enough to punch through our shields and armor like they were made of paper." "How do they generate such velocities?" Grockmore watched as another of his ships exploded under human fire. These new enemies fought with a ferocity that reminded him of his own people. But they combined it with precision and intelligence that the Void Hunters had never developed. The human ships didn't just attack, they coordinated with Federation vessels in ways that multiplied the effectiveness of both fleets. A Cathura science ship would scan for weak points while a human destroyer delivered devastating kinetic strikes. An Aquarian support vessel would provide shields while human fighters darted in for close combat. Admiral reported Lisa Kane from the Unity's bridge. The enemy is starting to retreat. They've lost 30 ships, and we've only lost 7. Nodded, but he wasn't celebrating yet. They're not retreating. They're regrouping. The Void Hunters don't give up easily.
He was right.
The enemy fleet gathered at the edge of the system and then charged directly at the Federation capital world of Harmony. It was a desperate attempt to end the war by destroying the government and civilian population. All ships defend Harmony, Jake ordered. Do not let a single enemy vessel reach the planet. What followed was the most brutal space battle in Galactic history. Human ships threw themselves between the Void Hunters and the defenseless world below. Federation vessels that had never fired weapons in anger fought alongside human destroyers that had been built for war. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Void Hunter fleet was completely destroyed. Their ships drifted in space. As broken metal, their threat to galactic civilization ended forever. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the Unity, looking down at Harmony. The planet's surface sparkled with lights from millions of cities, where beings from hundreds of worlds lived in peace. It was beautiful in a way that no human world had ever been. Lisa Kane joined him at the window. Think we proved our point? Jake smiled as he watched Federation and human ships working together to clear the debris field. I think we proved that being different isn't a weakness. It's a strength that makes everyone stronger. And now? Now we build something new. Federation that includes everyone, even the species that don't fit the old rules. Below them, on the surface of Harmony, children from dozens of different worlds played together in parks and schools. They shared foods from different planets, learned languages from different species, and grew up thinking that diversity was normal and wonderful. The Deathworlders hadn't been wanted, but they had come anyway. And in doing so, they had made the galaxy a better place for everyone. Years later, when historians wrote about this time, they would call it the Great Integration. It was the moment when the galaxy learned that civilization wasn't about being the same. It was about being different together, using those differences to create something stronger than any single species could build alone. The humans had taught the galaxy that sometimes the people you don't want are exactly the people you need. And sometimes being dangerous is the only way to protect the things that matter most.